What's up, guys? We are back with another wave of Super 7 Ultimates, and we are jumping into the next batch of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers. And we're going with the bad guy this time because I can't not take a look at Lord Zedd first, because, I mean, it's Lord Zedd. You got to do him first, right? So we've got Lord Zedd, but we're also going to take a look at the throne as well, because quite frankly, I'm not interested in just doing a video on a chair, so we're going to do both. Now, he comes in our standard Ultimate style packaging. This wave still has the slip cover, so we've got the sort of coin on the front for Lord Zedd. You've got the lightning burst sort of thing going on. You've got the logo on the back. Pop the slip cover off, of course, and then you've got Zedd there in the big window. You've got the lightning bolt patterning, MMPR logo down there on the bottom, all that good stuff. The back of the box gives us a shot from the show of Zedd, as well as a little bit of a write-up for this muscly guy. But then, of course, like I said, we're also going to take a look at the throne. And this is kind of weird. I don't remember if Monstar's box for his throne was a square also, but this is not the normal Ultimate shape. This is just a square, no slipcover on this thing, but you've got, of course, just the chair in the box. Not the most dynamic looking thing in the world, but I'm really excited for this because, I mean, it's a cool looking chair, so why not, right? And then, of course, you've got a picture of Zedd on the throne on the back. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's pull them out and take a look. And here we go. Out of the package are Super 7 Ultimates Power Rangers Lord Zedd. One of the most iconic Power Ranger villains. My favorite of the major villains because, well, I mean, look at him. And just a figure I really wanted to check out. I wanted to see how they make him work. I wanted to see how he stacks up to the Rangers. And I want to make sure he can sit in that throne, because if he has a throne, he better be able to sit in the damn thing. So let's see what this guy can do, see how he moves around. He's very similar to the Power Rangers, which is to say, from my perspective, and for Ultimates, really good. Like, this guy has some pretty good range, and he can definitely sit in the throne. We'll get to that later, but he can definitely sit in it. So we've got a head that can look up a little bit. He can look down really good. He's got a little bit of bobble, but not much. You've got full rotation. Arms out at the shoulders, they swivel, bicep swivel, single jointed, about 90 degrees swiveling elbow, of course. And then you've got your hinges, you've got rotation at the wrist. You know, normal stuff there. He's got a diaphragm cut and a waist twist. So you've got your normal waist twist. He goes backwards, pretty good. Doesn't go as far forward because of this point on his chest, but he's got really great tilt side to side. Like, that's really nice. Legs are able to go out all the way. You can get the splits. And they go forward. It's a double ball peg, so it's like a barbell down there, which is pretty interesting and kind of different for Ultimates. And they go backwards slightly. You do have a twist up there. We've got our single jointed swiveling knee, not 90 degrees, but it's still good enough for the throne. And then for the ankles, you don't really have a lot of rocker because of these little disc doodads down here, but you still have a really, really good hinge. So he has, I mean, within the confines of Ultimates, this guy moves really well. He's, again, very comparable to the Rangers, and I've not really had any issues with him. The only thing that I find to be even remotely a problem for me is the ankles. I wish he had more rocker, but I can kind of see why they don't move as far. Otherwise, though, this is a very good step forward in terms of articulation for Ultimates in general. Now, as far as the overall look and feel on this guy, I'm going to say, just at face value, point blank, I absolutely love the way this figure looks. I know that they've got a lot of competition in terms of making a Lord Zedd, because despite where the Lightning Collection is these days, it came out swinging really hard with an exceptional Lord Zedd figure. This figure, though, I think is just terrific in just about every way. I love the overall sizing of the figure. He's really big and bulky. We'll do size comparisons, of course, but he's really thick. He feels meaty, for lack of a better word. The silver on the figure is incredibly bright and vibrant and metallic. And this figure is also, while minimal, fully painted. And I say minimal because it's just sort of like a dry brushing over top of all the musculature. But it does bring out every bit of detail. So there's a lot of texture. There's a lot of, striations in all of the musculature on Zedd. It does need that paint, and I'm really happy that they actually did it. So it's not just red plastic. There is a, like, maybe 2 shades lighter, trending pink almost, dry brush over top of it that brings all of that detail out and makes him pop, and it makes all of that sculpt, really stand out. The tubes are also really well done. They're actually like inside holes inside the arms and the legs. So all of this stuff right here, you can see they're actually little holes that those tubes are popped into, and then I guess they're glued in place. And they look good. They have good range on them. I've not really had any issues with them being too tight or anything where I'm worried about them popping off or anything. So there's some give on all of this stuff, which makes them have a little bit of slack, I suppose. So you're not going to be worried about ripping them out, or at least I haven't when I've been messing around with them so far. The armor, the rib cage aspect of him, all of the metallic bones, almost the structure on the figure is really nice. Again, it's really bright and metallic and vibrant, but it's just a really cool looking figure. I mean, this is one I was really hoping they would nail just because of how cool Lord Zedd is. You really have to do him well. He's an awesome character design. It's evil, it's nasty looking, and I think Super7 did just a rock solid job on this one. I'm very happy with the way he turned out. He looks nasty, he looks evil, he looks very, very menacing. Some of that does, of course, have to go with the head sculpt, with the helmet sculpt. So you've got, that sort of evil grin that's always on his face. You've got the slightly dark red visor. You've got his big Z, horn up top, basically the spike that sticks up there. And then, of course, you've got your Zedd brain up there as well, which also has some of that dry brushing in there to help bring out that sculpt. So he looks terrific. From top to bottom, I'm very happy with him. He's not too big, he's not too small. He's beefy, he's bulky, very muscly, obviously, but I think they killed it with what paint they did apply, as well as the tubes, and all of this silver all over him to really make him pop and stand out in contrast to the red, sinewy muscle underneath. Now, as far as some size comparisons, let's start with other Ranger stuff. So we've got the Lightning Collection Lord Zedd on the right. I think this is the second one, the one that came in the 2-pack. And then we've got a Ultimates Red Ranger here on the left. So you can see that Zedd is bigger than the Rangers. He's not massive, though, which I think tracks in terms of how he was shown in the show. Let's do another Ultimates. Let's do Goldar. So here's Goldar, and he is, he's a little bit bigger, but he's not absolutely massive. He's maybe like half a head taller overall. Let's do some other lines. So here is a Marvel Legends. Here is Bishop. Let's do a Figuarts. Let's do Piccolo, Superhero Piccolo. And then let's do a Mythic Legions, of course. Can't not do a Legions, right? There is the Valiant Knight. And then one more, let's do a NECA figure. Here is the NECA Warduke from Dungeons & Dragons. So as you can see, I mean, Zedd is pretty much par for the course with a lot of the normal average scale Ultimates. He's going to be a little bit bigger than the Power Rangers, which I think makes sense. He's going to be slightly smaller than the Monster of the Week and Goldar kind of figures, which I also think makes sense. But then he doesn't look too bad with other stuff in the normal 7-inch scale range either. Now, as far as accessories goes, this is the area where I feel like maybe he falters for me. I say that maybe because I don't really care. Like, all I really need for Zedd is his staff, and I'm probably okay. But he comes with some stuff I don't really care about. So to start with, we do get an extra head sculpt, and yes, this is an extra head sculpt. It just happens to look exactly the same. So this is supposed to mimic the energy beam that comes out of his visor when he looks down at Angel Grove. So that red laser. This is the regular head. Like the red is just slightly brighter. I don't think it's executed all that well. If anything, this head should have been light piped, and that should have been a translucent piece like Metalhead and Turtles. That would have been really cool and impactful. We do get a bunch of hands for him. So we get laterally hinged gripping hands on him in the box. He's got a set of style posy grasping gesturing hands. You get a set of fists. You get a set of vertically hinged gripping hands, which work well for his staff. And then you get a singular left pointing finger hand, which I'm still a big fan of getting those. And then we also get a right grasping hand that's meant more specifically for the little grenades that he throws, the little bombs. And you get 3 of these, which I feel is kind of excessive. I have no idea what I'm going to do with 3 of those, but you get them. And then we also get, this is probably the one accessory I care the least about, because while it's in the show a decent amount, I don't expect to ever use it. He does come with his snake, and I can't for the life of me figure out how this thing is supposed to go around him. It's not bendy. This thing is pre-posed, so it just kind of goes back to the way it was. It doesn't, I don't know. I'm going to have to play around with it and figure out if it'll do anything, but it's okay. It doesn't really look like it goes with this figure. It looks super cartoony by comparison. But if you're interested in Zedd's snake, there you go. You've got the option. But the most important accessory that he comes with is, of course, his staff. And this is really well executed. It's sturdy, it's big, it's taller than the figure is, so it's got some height and some size. The Z is really nicely done. You've got the blade on the end, and it's slightly wider in the middle to get a nicer grip on it. It's also very, very shiny, very metallic, and goes with the figure quite well. Again, like I said, at minimum, this is all I truly care about. The only other thing I would have liked to have seen here is an energy effect. That would have absolutely topped the Lightning Collection for sure, because, you know, that was one of their hallmarks, was energy effects. I've got plenty I can share with him, but to get something specifically made for the Ultimates would have been nice, just to showcase his power a bit. So, you know, like I said, he doesn't have a lot of stuff that I truly care about. The staff is really nice. He does have a good selection of hands, but the other stuff is all kind of just sort of middling to me at best. And I wish this extra head sculpt was a little bit different. Now, as far as our throne, I'm not going to spend a ton of time on this because, well, it's just a chair. You know, it has no articulation, but this thing looks great. It's big, it's bulky, it's really thick, it's got some heft and some weight to it, but it also, more importantly, does fit ZEDD really well. It's not the most, I don't know, extravagant throne. It's very, like, concrete and, like, brutalist in many ways. But you've got all this weird texture in there. You've got like I don't know what those things are supposed to be, like birds or something, bird heads, raven heads on the front. And then the back does give you the metallic Z, which I think is a cool touch. I do like that. But it is covered in texture. It's covered in pitting and sort of like a craggy texture to it. It's got a bunch of paint all over it. So everything does get brought out by the paint applications for this one. So you can kind of see all of those nooks and crannies and everything in there. But of course, the major aspect of this is just the ability to actually have ZEDD on the chair, right? You're not going to want this if he can't actually sit in it. And I'm happy to say, you know, that he actually can sit in this chair pretty well. Like, he fits in it pretty nicely. I don't have any real issues with how he sits in it. The only thing that's going to really stop him from maybe sitting more comfortably, I suppose, is how far those knees maybe do or don't bend. But I think this looks pretty good. He fits in it pretty well. It's definitely sized to him. And again, I feel like he was made with the intention of being in this chair, based on how the legs move and how they seem to be put together. I feel like this chair was obviously a factor in his articulation scheme, which does help his overall mobility. But you can see he does fit in it pretty well. It does seem to be sized really well for ZEDD in particular also. So I really think this is a pretty cool addition. It's not something that you necessarily have to have, right? You don't need it for a complete display, but if you want to have ZEDD sitting down, this chair does work really well. And despite the fact that, you know, it's about the same price as the figures, I think you're going to get a pretty decent amount of use out of it, especially, you know, if you're into diorama building or something like that, or setting a scene. This is something that would probably cost just as much, if not more, from a customizer. So, you know, you can take that with maybe a grain of salt, but I do think it works really well, and I'm happy that Super7's kind of giving us these little set pieces because, I don't know, he looks pretty cool sitting there brooding in his big chair. So yeah, overall, I'm really happy with this figure. I think I've made that quite clear. I'm really happy with the way he turned out. I'm really happy with the throne. The throne isn't maybe as exciting because, well, it's just a chair, but it's still a good-looking chair, and it's Lord ZEDD's chair, and this is a nice way to get both of them, and you can have Lord ZEDD just sitting and relaxing on your shelf. The figure in general, though, I think is really well done. Again, Power Rangers for an Ultimates line is definitely at the forefront of articulation for Super 7. They still try to do new things with this particular set of figures, and I think ZEDD is an example of that. He looks great. He moves well. Accessories aren't maybe my favorite for this figure. The staff is truly about all I really care about with this one, but the staff does look good. The bombs are really good, but at the same time, I don't need a bunch of those things. And I wish that the extra head had light piping, or the visor was at least brighter, because it doesn't really sell the idea that they're going for all that well. Otherwise, though, I really think this is one that if you're into Power Rangers, if you're into Ultimates, this is one you need because they really knocked it out of the park. So that's going to do it for this look at the Super 7 Ultimates Power Rangers Wave 3 Lord ZEDD. Let me know what you guys think. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, and share, and until next time.